The Sacrifice Game. Streaming on Shudder December 8th. Centers on a couple of girls. They're at a girls' boarding school. It's the holidays. All the girls are leaving. All the instructors are leaving, except one teacher. Sounds like the holdovers, right? Except one teacher.
It does.
Right?
It does.
Okay. And you're going to hold over your review next week for Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes, next week, you're going to talk about the holdovers, okay? Because
yeah. I mean, if I talked about it this week, that'd be 4 movies that have something in common.
Right? Okay, so 2 girls are left, all girls boarding school with a teacher and the teacher's boyfriend, or it's never established if he's an employee in the, anyways, several people are left in that boarding school. Unfortunately, there are several killers on the loose. Some there probably in their early to mid 20s, maybe about, I think there's 4 of them. And the movie starts with them actually attacking a suburban couple and killing them. Pretty flashy sequence and violent sequence. Right off the top, you know there's going to be bloodletting and gore. I don't know how much gore is in this movie. I'm going to let Bruce and Eric talk about, but that's the Sacrifice Game. Eventually, these killers end up at the boarding school with these assumedly scared, innocent individuals, and let's see what happens when these 2 people mix. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed and killing in the Sacrifice Game. The most important thing, does the Sacrifice Game work as a movie? Bruce, let's start with you.
Overall, I would say yes, it does work as a movie. Kind of the vibe you're getting, I think it's supposed to take place in 1971. That's one thing to kind of get the vibe of how this is going. And like you said, the opening, I think it's a pre-title sequence, is these 4 kind of hippie types, very, very Manson-esque. They come in and they invade a house and kill a couple that are just hanging out in their house. And it's shot really cool. Like, it's shot all from outside the house. So the camera kind of goes around the house and you're looking in the windows as the attack and murders are occurring. And then, like you said, the rest of the movie is pretty much at this boarding school, boarded up, Shining-esque, you know, for the winter break. What this movie is kind of a split movie, and I won't talk about exactly what the second half or third act of the movie is, because that's, I think, supposed to be somewhat of a surprise, but it plays out like it's going to be a version of a home invasion sort of movie, right? You get these movies like The Strangers and those kind of movies where you have innocent, normal, everyday people. Their safe space gets invaded by people who are out to be sadistic and do them harm. And those people that invade are always the same type too. And I was kind of noticing that as I was watching this. It's like they always have this thing where it's like they want to toy with them and they're kind of sarcastic. And sometimes it is very, or Funny Games would be another example, right? But sometimes it's very dread-inducing. Sometimes it's a little more of just a thrill ride. I think this leans more towards the thrill ride. I was half and half on the acting of the sinister group, because a little bit of it was slightly overplayed for me, but also the tone was kind of working with that as well, because the tone was, for a movie that could be really hardcore and really like disturbing, you know, once again, Funny Games. This movie has a little bit lighter, a little more playful genre touch to it, somewhat. It's still violent, and it's for horror fans. It's not really for average moviegoer type person. I would say that the tone shifts in it kind of work for me and kind of didn't work for me. Overall, I think I'm on the positive side on this one, though.
Look, Bruce, your review, I'm so glad that you said this. There is a tone shift in this movie that I read a freaking review at a very reputable publication, and they basically say what that spoiler is. And, you know,
yeah.
On one hand, you can actually talk about the spoiler, and I'm sure a lot of reviews will discuss what are the real intent of the killers or the innocent people? What's the motivations? That could be part of the plot, but my opinion, you're not going to enjoy the Sacrifice Game if you know what that is. And I can't believe the review I read. I understand why it could be the fabric of that plot, but I'm so glad that you didn't mention that. Okay, so anyways. Yeah. Eric, your review of the Sacrifice Game, what did you think?
So at the end of the Sacrifice Game, what was really cool. No, actually, this is kind of tough because I kind of get the review, because a lot of what I really loved about this was kind of what happened in the second half. Even in the first half, I kind of a little bit House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, a little bit the Fireflies in there. There's a little bit of that going on, you know, when they get to the school and then start continuing on their thing there. That's kind of where it takes a turn. I'd really like to do a spoiler on this, but without getting into that, I would just say I like where it goes. And it does a thing in this movie as does Everyone Will Burn and Lord of Misrule. That does a thing that really bugs the hell out of me that I think they handled really well in this, that I have not seen in movies kind of like this.
Oh, okay. And you can't really mention it because that would be spoiler discussions.
It would be.
Is it, let me guess without spoiling it, but is it a certain kind of character that shows up a lot in these kind of movies, but that they deal with it in a different sort of way than they usually do?
I believe so.
Yes.
No? Okay. Very, very cool. Here's the thing. My thoughts on the Sacrifice Game. There's an actress. Her name is Georgia Acken or Acken. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She plays one of the schoolgirls, very meek, timid schoolgirl, Clara, however you pronounce her name. She is one of the main girls. The other girl is also meek and timid, and that is Samantha, played by Madison Baines. So Samantha and Clara are the main girls who are left in that boarding school. I think Madison Baines does a good performance, solid, would like to see her in more stuff. I have a feeling Georgia Acken as Clara, she's going places. I have a feeling this could be the start of something because I was really glued to her character and what her arc was throughout the fabric of the narrative. And to Bruce's point, the killers in the movie, I just wish they stood out a little bit more. They didn't really, the first like maybe 2 acts didn't stand out for me that much. But this is what Eric likes to say in some of his reviews. The third act is so fantastic for me. I really love the third act. And I think it just bumps up everything. It, like Eric, you like to say, lifts all boats. It lifted this movie. And with George's performance and Madison's performance, I really ended up enjoying the Sacrifice Game, even though the slow burn parts of the first and second act, well, kind of sort of dragged for me. I was just waiting for something to happen. And when that something did happen, like Eric, I just love that third act. Yes, Eric.
I would say that, well, first of all, I love George's character because she reminded me a lot of my niece, May. So the whole time I'm watching her, I'm not looking at Georgia Acken. I'm looking at my niece saying, wow, May, you're really good in this. Oh, wait, that's not her. And I love her and Madison's kind of chemistry, yes, as well as the, like you kind of knocked on the killers, but I kind of like their dynamic as well, because I think what they set up early on pays off a lot in the third act. There's like little things that they set up that when they get to the third act, I think it finally pays off.
Okay, well, let's see. What does this pay off? Do we really enjoy the Sacrifice Game, which is directed by Jen Wexler? She also co-wrote this. Bruce, what is your rating or final thoughts on the Sacrifice Game?
I'm going to say 3.5. I think it's pretty solid, pretty entertaining overall. And like we have all alluded to, I think it takes some turns that a movie like this doesn't always take, which I definitely really appreciated that part of it. One thing I would point out, people hated It's a Wonderful Knife, and we kind of liked it. So maybe I'm not good at reviewing holiday horror movies. So keep telling me, people, if I'm wrong. But yeah, I'd say 3.5 on this one.
Yeah, I really enjoy this. I think I'm sort of where you are, Bruce. But then again, that third act just really put everything into perspective for me. I wouldn't mind watching this movie again because I feel like as I love it so much, I could really stomach the first 2 acts the second time around to see how all this stuff plays out. So for me, 4 stars. 4 stars for the Sacrifice Game. What about you, Eric?
I'm higher than both of you. This one's currently 4.5. I'll give it 4.5 with room to grow. This could be a 5-star for me after watching it a couple of times, because there's just certain things that they do in this movie that they do in other movies that really bug me, that they kind of knocked out of the park for me. And so I enjoyed this quite a bit. That
is a very strong recommend from Eric Holmes. The Sacrifice Game, 4.5 from him. Bruce Berkey, mild recommend. No, not a mild. That's a solid recommend. 3.5, right?
It's pretty solid. I had a good time watching it. And this is not like a long artsy movie. This is like a meat and potatoes horror movie. So
yes, there is bloodletting. So again, like Bruce said, if you're looking for some kind of I know what you did last summer, something that it's palatable. There are things that are not very palatable in this movie. So 3.5 from Eric, 3.5 from Bruce, 4.5 from Eric, 4 from me. Sacrifice Game streaming on Shudder, December 8th.